This is the tactical frog, and it is the #1 hip mobility exercise for CrossFitters. But there's a catch. Unfortunately, it's probably one of the most awkward exercises you can do in public. So maybe just don't make eye contact while you're doing it. See what I mean? If you're a CrossFitter or Olympic weightlifter struggling with tight hips, knee pain, or even low back pain, chances are I would be structuring this exercise into your mobility program. My name is Matt Philly. I'm the founder of Primal Mobility, where we help barbell athletes reduce pain and drastically improve performance through strength-based mobility training. In this video, I'm going to be explaining exactly why this exercise is a staple in many of our CrossFit athletes' programs and what you should be focusing on in order to get the absolute most bang for your buck out of this movement. All right, so if you're ready, let's dive in. So before I explain this exercise, I think it's a good idea to give a bit of context as to why it's such a good fit in the first place. CrossFit has always been a fascination for me. Aside from the cool combination of exercises from different sports like Olympic weightlifting and gymnastics, it really appeals to my ADHD side with how it's constantly varied. Hope you don't mind that I'm just over here doing random shit with gym equipment because I don't know what to do with my hands when I'm talking to you.
I'm not sure what to do with my hands at the end of the day.
But here's why I'm making this video for you. Over the last 7.5 years, we've helped over 6,000 athletes at Primal Mobility, and 70% of which have been CrossFit athletes that are dealing with hip pain, knee pain, or low back pain. Christ, I feel like a Price is Right model over here. A beautiful exercise bike.
Your last contestant on The Price is Right.
Now, if we take a step back and look at how most barbell athletes are training within the gym, at least 90% of it is going to be within the sagittal plane. So to start, we have the frontal plane, which kind of draws an imaginary line through the center of the body, dividing our body into front and back halves, also known as anterior and posterior. Then we have the transverse plane, which draws that imaginary line at about the waist level, dividing our body into upper and lower halves. Then we have the sagittal plane, drawing that line directly through the center of the body, dividing us into left and right halves. Left and right.
I'm not sure what to do with my hands.
Typically, the majority of the movements we are doing in the gym, particularly with a barbell, are going to be done in a forward or backward motion. Think things like squats, lunges, overhead press, deadlifts, cleans, so on. These are all phenomenal exercises, and there's not a goddamn thing wrong with any of them. But here's where it starts to get a little bit problematic. Our body is an adaptation machine.
Fuck it, I'm a machine, let's do this shit.
Whatever stimulus we put our body through most frequently is the one that it's going to be most ready to adapt to. Think of it this way, whether you're doing one exercise repeatedly day in, day out, or you're doing 10 exercises repeatedly day in, day out, your body is going to respond and adapt accordingly and help you be best prepared for that particular demand. Now, this concept can be distilled down into a single isolated exercise. For example, the more you do a particular exercise, the better you're going to get at it. But it can also be spread apart into the bigger picture of movements that are categorized under the sagittal plane. And as always, you're going to become great at what you do repeatedly, and you're going to become shitty at what you do rarely. This is why mobility training is so powerful at reducing pain and likelihood of injury while increasing performance. It allows you to explore and challenge yourself in different planes of motion, training your body to accept stress in different ways that it can adapt to. So now let's talk about how this relates to the tactical frog. As I mentioned, the majority of the exercises that we do on a regular basis in the gym will have us working through the sagittal plane, which gets us really good at the sagittal plane. But the benefit of the tactical frog is that it has us working our hip range of motion through all 3 planes simultaneously. All right, so now let's talk about how to actually perform the movement. And remember, the little details matter a lot, so pay attention here. Start by getting into a deep frog stretch position. We're looking for about an 80% intensity here. Anything more than that, and it may impede your ability to do the lift off and train the muscles responsible for internal rotation. So get into that deep stretch position. From here, we're going to keep our feet as wide as we can If we bring our heels in, it's going to make the exercise easier. If we bring our heels out, it's going to rotate the femur a little bit more, causing more internal hip rotation in the hip, making the exercise more challenging. So wherever that limit is for you. Next, I'm going to sink my hips into a deep frog stretch position. Hold for a count of 3 when I'm there. After the 3 seconds, I'm gonna come forward slightly, drive my knee down hard into the floor, and lift up off of the ground, pulling my hip into internal rotation and training the muscles responsible for that function of the hip. Count to 3 on the lift off, put it down, sink the hips back for another deep stretch, count of 3. Come forward and repeat on the other side. Again, we want to focus on driving the knee down into the floor as we do our lift off, and we're moving very slowly through the exercise, focusing on engaging the hips and really connecting and feeling the movement as we go. Intention is everything. While most people just spend 2 to 3 minutes sitting in the frog stretch position, you're actually going to be putting in work and training your muscles to get stronger in those deep ranges of motion. This is huge for overall joint function and capacity. It'll make your hips feel like they can move more freely through range of motion without restriction, and it'll feel like they can withstand more stress from the barbell as well. See, this isn't just passive flexibility, which is generally better acquired through long static stretches. This is true functional active mobility. The key to that magical universe is strength-based mobility, helping you train pain-free. It's definitely a lot harder than just sitting in a long passive stretch, but the results are game-changing. So if you're a CrossFitter who is currently struggling with hip, knee, or low back discomfort in any way, and you want to improve your squat mobility, the tactical frog is definitely a staple that I would be adding into your mobility program if I was creating it for you. If you made it this far, you are a real one and I appreciate you. If you found this at all helpful, please like and subscribe and share it with a homie, and I'll catch you on the next one.